people around the world. Please give a very warm welcome to Tariq Ali.
Friends, I endorse strongly what all the previous speakers have said. I want to start with a little bit of history, which is not unrelated to what we're discussing here today. In the 17th century, in this country, in the period leading up to the great upheaval, which was known as the English Revolution, when England became the first country to lop off the head of the ruling monarchs. A tradition that is often forgotten, but what is also forgotten is that long before that upheaval occurred, there was a huge struggle in this country for the right to write, print, and distribute a pamphlet. And in 3 years, I think my memory is failing me a bit, but in the crucial years from 1637 or 1636 to 1640, a bookseller not far from this area where we're meeting today recorded that his personal collection alone contained 232,000 pamphlets against the Antichrist, which was the common way of describing the enemy at that time. And these pamphlets, for writing which, many of the pamphleteers, John Bastwick for one, but others, were taken to prison, locked up, chained, beaten, in some cases hung, drawn, and quartered. And that was the price those pioneers paid for liberty, for freedom of expression. And today in the 21st century, 4 centuries later, we are still discussing this issue of the right to have access to free information so we can make up our minds as citizens as who to vote for, as who to march against, and as what to do in our daily lives politically and in other capacities. We're still fighting for that right. So let's ask ourselves, what is it that causes people to take huge personal risks and betray secrets? When Daniel Ellsberg betrayed, as he was accused of doing, secrets which later were published as the Pentagon Papers, why did he do it? He did it because the entire decision by the United States to attack and bomb North Vietnam in 1964 was based on a lie. And that lie was that their warships in the Gulf of Tonkin had been attacked and torpedoed by North Vietnamese torpedo boats. The North Vietnamese denied this. They said, we didn't do it. The entire Western media said that they had done it, and the very next day, the bombing began. And 2 brave senators in the American Senate, Fulbright and Wayne Morse, stood up and said, we don't believe it. The evidence isn't there. And that encouraged Ellsberg to look at the exchange of telegrams, and he found out it was a lie. The whole thing was rigged. And that's what caused him to come out, take a huge risk, sacrifice his job, his career, get locked up, be slandered. Lots of stuff was put about in the American media about his adulterous affairs, etc., etc. But he always felt proud of what he had done. And that too was done at a time when a hugely unpopular war and occupation was taking place. And the point I'm trying to make is that these things usually happen in times of crisis and in times of war. Ellsberg did it during the Vietnam War. The Wikileaks people and Assange have done it at a time when Iraq has been devastated, its social infrastructure destroyed, its people killed. 5 million Iraqis are refugees in neighboring countries. Afghanistan is being destroyed. Pakistan is being attacked by drones. Under Obama, there have been more drone attacks on Pakistan than in the entire 8 years of the Bush administration. So here it's not just continuity with Bush, it is worse as far as the people of that region are concerned. And when these things are going on, and nobody is digging out the dirt and publishing it, then individuals or groups of people decide that this is the way to go forward. Because what has deteriorated even more since Ellsberg's revelations in the Pentagon Papers, those revelations triggered off a huge wave of investigative journalism. And they got so scared of it that they decided that the next time we went in for big wars, we had to make sure that the media was totally tame and under control. So when they fought the first war in the Gulf and then the Iraq war, we had a new development which was talked about quite neutrally, that we now have journalists who, in order to function and do their work, have to be embedded with the military, so that they can be controlled. A few brave souls said we won't be embedded. Fisk for one, Patrick Coben for another, John Pilger, who went to these areas. And said we're not going to be embedded, because being embedded means to be controlled. We see what you want us to see. And if that has been bad in the print media, it has been horrific on television. Horrific. Which television channel has shown a documentary soon after these events happened of the massacres in Fallujah? The New York Times actually published an article of interviews with soldiers, American soldiers in Fallujah in Iraq, who, when asked, why are you shooting wounded people, said, it's better to put animals out of their misery. This was not reported on television. So, side by side with the wars, we have had a process where the main media networks have been sealed. If you look, for instance, one evening at high points of the main stories on BBC World, or 24 Hours, CNN, the two principal Western channels watched of the world, they are virtually the same. They start with the same shots, they have the same images, etc. Which is why so many people in Europe and in North America, whenever there's a war or a crisis, switch to Al Jazeera. And even before there was English Al Jazeera, I know lots of people in Europe who would switch to the Arabic Al Jazeera, that's saying even though we don't understand Arabic, we can see the images. These are different images that we are getting. And so, for me, the entire Wikileaks episode is part of the struggle to create an alternative network of information that includes Wikileaks, that includes Amy Goodman's wonderful show in the United States called Democracy Now! That includes Al Jazeera. that includes alternative networks that you have to struggle to find, but you find them for alternative news. Precisely because of the death of investigative journalism in the mainstream media, print and television and radio, precisely because of that, Wikileaks acquires a huge importance. It's doing the job which mainstream journalists refuse to do. And for that alone, we should be grateful to Wikileaks and Julian Assange. It's an extremely important business, and I don't think it's going to end. One has to say this. I support what everyone else has said about opposing and fighting for Julian and Bradley Manning. All this, we have to carry on doing it. The reason they are doing it and victimizing these guys is as a deterrent. Punish them hard enough, destroy their characters, make life really difficult for them so that it will discourage other people from doing it. That is the reason they're doing it, and it's going to fail. And it's going to fail because the technology that is now available means that large numbers of people all over the world can do it. I mean, when the Chinese can hack into the British Foreign Office, presumably to read American cables because the British Foreign Office has no independence of its own. And hackers can hack into the Pentagon and see all the war games it's playing. I mean, how can they close this business down? It's going to be extremely difficult unless they do what the Chinese do, and they are experts at it, which is, completely exercising an iron control over everything that goes out onto the media. Well, if they even do that in the West now, and some of them might be in favor of it, and some of them have tried to do it, it doesn't work once a movement gets going. This big thing in Egypt, which the Mubarak dictatorship thought of, let's close down phone messaging. Vodafone capitulated immediately. Let's close it down. Let's stop Facebook. Let's stop tweets. What happened? They did it for 3 days. It didn't work. More and more people began to come out so that they could hear from each other what had been going on instead of waiting at home. So it's even as a deterrent, it is an extremely foolish thing to do. And we need it. We need brave, courageous people who give us information, because without the free flow of information, how can you have a meaningful democracy? You know, we have in this country, in the United States, and in virtually all of Western Europe, essentially politics by consensus. It's not just the conservative Lib Dem coalition, it's also the opposition which is a problem. That there is at the moment no real mainstream political opposition in the country. In the United States, the consensus, the only consensus that is acceptable, is to be a moderate Republican. Think about it. Of course, not an extreme Republican. Not like Sarah Palin, but a moderate Republican. Like Bush, Clinton, and Obama. Because the message that was sent when one of Hillary Clinton's remarks about Mubarak was not just that he was a good guy. What she said was even more horrific. She said, which is true, Bill and I have known Hosni Mubarak for a long time. He's like family. And of course he is. And what no journalist said, well, what presents did you get? We know the presents Blair and his family got from Mubarak. Free holidays in the Sharm el-Sheikh. No questions asked, no bills paid. Fine.
Shame the sharks didn't get in.
Yeah, it is. So that is the world in which we live. They protect their own. It doesn't matter what they are, whether they are elected, non-elected, as long as you agree with them and do their bidding, you're fine till there are uprisings. And then these uprisings challenge everything. The entire Egyptian media, by the way, has been attacking these demonstrators day in and day out. Television, print media. No effect. No effect. People ignore it. It's like many people here now simply refuse to believe what they read or see in the media. They don't. They take it, they're very skeptical, especially in times of crisis and of war. That is the importance of Wikileaks. Just one last word about Sweden. Gone are the times when Sweden used to be a model. Gone are the times when the Swedish foreign minister, Olof Palme, used to march with demonstrators outside the US embassy protesting the war in Vietnam. Gone are the days when everyone used to say, what a plucky little social democracy Sweden is. Wish we could be like it. Those days are long gone. Scandinavia now is part of the global system of American hegemony, as is the entire European Union. This is why they constantly unite with each other, defend each other, why the medias in each of these countries are very similar, why they have the same economic policies, why they have the same political priorities, why they blindly follow American wars. Maybe we won't support the war in Iraq, but after Iraq is occupied, that's different. Now we can support it. German and French oil companies in there. So that is the world in which we live. And this is a world in which citizens, Jemima in a sense was right. She's not on the left or the right. There are many, many other people like her. And they speak up because they see there is no real opposition. And it's for that that we defend Julian Assange. It's not a personal thing. It's for what he has done politically and the organization he has built, which has made it easier for large numbers of people not to engaged in daily politics to see the truth. And for that, we thank you, Julian, and for that we will defend you and Wikileaks till the end.